was watching a recent Onion Nuggets, and Paulsego posed a question. First, he laid out a scenario, and I'm going to try to run through it really quick, because if anybody actually found this video, and I'm sure that'll be like one person, maybe, you probably are already kind of familiar, but he said he was on a road trip. He was doing a lot of driving and shooting film and blah blah blah, and he stopped at a burger joint or a gas station or something somewhere, and he sees a family. Said he was just kind of people watching a little bit, I guess, because he watched this family for a while. He said it's a mom and a dad, and I don't remember if it was one kid or two, but the point is, dad's wearing a dress, little boy's wearing a dress. The dad's like 6 foot something, kind of muscle, like a big guy, wearing a dress. Boy, it looks like I think he said he probably looks like he's like 8 or something like that, wearing a dress. And the question he posed was, how do you counter the obvious right-wing narrative that you shouldn't let that little boy do that until they're an age where they can understand like the potential consequences, the ramifications? And then he went on to say the problem for him is that he actually agrees with that statement, so he doesn't know how to, at least I guess from that angle, approach the argument. And I'm just heaping shit on top of the pile, basically. I'm not coming in here to call Paulsego a bigot or anything, but he admitted up front that he was making a lot of assumptions about, how this family operates and blah blah blah. And I just want to throw out there something that they didn't mention, but that jumped out at me since we're talking about assumptions. What if this behavior is just something that they're letting their kid do, at home or, during family time together, and it's something that we don't take to school or more formal places yet, because exactly the reasons Paulsego said. Now, I'm not, again, like, I think Paul's position on this is rooted in a place of compassion. I don't think he's necessarily even wrong. I just think the line of assumptions that he ran with and the conclusion he came to based on that line of assumption kind of opens the door to some funny ideas about, like, legal enforcement of certain gender norms for kids. When again, like, what if this is just family time? What if this, what if they don't do this at school, but they're allowed to do it at home, and, dad's trying to be supportive, or as I think they suggested during the show, kids imitate, so maybe dad's been doing this, and now son's doing it too. We can only speculate, but I would argue, again, like, I don't think Paul's position is necessarily wrong when we're talking about dressing kids for school, dressing kids for, like, social outings among among larger groups than just the immediate family. But taken to its extreme, the kind of assumptions that were made in the show, it's like, hey, based on that, you could just be like, hey, like, that family's dressing their daughter too masculine. You have to, what if law enforcement comes to do something about that? I have a 3-year-old daughter. She's got plenty of things in her wardrobe that are pink, girly, or whatever, but she's also got a lot of, like, totally neutral stuff, or things that a lot of people would probably think were clothes meant for boys. Lots of blue, lots of darker colors, blues and blacks and grays, and some of it's stuff that I've picked out for her, or things that my mother's picked out for her. Some of it's stuff that she's seen at the store that she wants. She's 3, and you can get away with it more with girls because it just is that way, and I'm not saying it should be that way. The point is, yeah, in the exact scenario that Paul lays out in the show, you know, this kid is, where we're assuming that this kid is doing this on the norm and potentially even like going to school that way, I'd say, yeah, I would be inclined to say, hey, let's keep that at home until maybe we're like approaching teens, and then, you know, then there's more understanding of the potential consequences of something like that. And until then, I would just explain that the best that I can is like, you know, it shouldn't be this way. It's not right. But, you know, dressing boys in clothes meant for girls or vice versa is something that a lot of people don't really like, and those people are wrong. But progress is slow. Because as Paul said, and I'll close after this, I'm not trying to go on and on and on about it, but nobody wants their child to be the one who suffers the slings and arrows of pushing change, pushing the next paradigm shift. But there are precious few ways that the now older generation can change it for them. And what history shows us is that the younger generation always pushes change, whether they mean to or not. So my answer to Paul's question, his follow-up question, that is, should kids really be the ones who have to push change along? I'd say, unfortunately, they are, whether we accept that reality or not. And the best thing that we could do, in my opinion, is to find selectively the ways that we can enable them. So yeah, like if I had a son and he wanted to wear a dress, I'd probably tell him, like, let's keep that at home, you know, until you're older, and then if you're still really interested in it, then, you know, then fine. But, you know, in doing so, keep in mind that you may be helping to slow down the change that would make the world such that your son or your daughter can dress however the fuck they want to, and nobody will have anything to say about it. Thanks for listening.